picture the scene, if you will. You are standing on the high battlements of a castle.
Right.
It doesn't matter which one. It could be the wet gray granite of Winterfell.
Or the black fused stone of Dragonstone.
Exactly. Or even the pale red sandstone of the capital. You look up and the sky is bleeding.
It's such a visceral image to start with.
It really is. It sets the tone for everything that follows. There is a red comet, a slash across the heavens.
Learning day and night.
Yeah, day and night. It's the color of blood, the color of fire. And here's the thing that really grabs me about the opening of this story.
The shared reality of it.
Yes, this comet is the one single thing that every character in the world sees at the exact same time. It is the only objective reality they share.
And yet, nobody can agree on what it actually means.
Which is the brilliance of the opening move.
It really is. If you are Joffrey Baratheon down in King's Landing,
Oh, boy.
yeah, that comet is obviously a herald of your glory. It's nature itself applauding your ascension to the Iron Throne.
Right, he's like, look at me, the sky is celebrating my birthday.
Which tells you literally everything you need to know about Joffrey's narcissism.
But if you go north, up to Winterfell, you have Osha.
The wildling woman.
Right. She looks at that exact same red streak, and she doesn't see glory. She whispers two words, blood and fire.
Which is distinctly Targaryen phrasing, by the way.
Yeah, a nice little wink to the reader there.
Definitely. And then you have the religious zealots who see it as a dragon's tail.
Or sword.
Yeah, a flaming sword. It's basically a celestial Rorschach test.
A Rorschach test, that is the perfect way to put it. And that is why we are starting here. Because today we are discussing a book that is entirely about perception.
It is about the lies we tell ourselves to justify our power.
Welcome to our deep dive. I am your host, and I am joined as always by our resident expert. Today we are wrestling with a massive piece of source material. We are unpacking the second entry in George R.R. Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire series.
But we aren't just recapping the plot for you.
No, we are looking at it through a very specific conceptual lens today. We are calling this deep dive The Mirror, A Clash of Kings by George R.R. Martin.
The Mirror is really the perfect framework for this.
I think so too.
Because if the first book was the catalyst,
The murder of Jon Arryn.
right, the defenestration of Bran, the execution of Ned Stark, if that was the catalyst, this book is the reflection.
It holds a mirror up to the concept of leadership.
And shows us 5 different, highly distorted reflections of what a king looks like.
And frankly, most of those reflections are pretty ugly.
They are hideous. We are going to see exactly how power deforms the people who wield it.
But before we get into the heavy analysis, we need to set the board. For you, the listener who hasn't read this in a while.
The state of Westeros at the start of this book is absolute chaos.
Chaos is putting it lightly. The realm has completely fractured. King Robert Baratheon is dead.
Ned Stark is headless.
The guy we all thought was the main character.
Gone, and the vacuum they created has sucked in 5 different men who all think they should be in charge.
Let's run down the roster quickly, just so we have our players set. First, sitting on the Iron Throne itself, we have Joffrey Baratheon.
The boy king. He has the claim, he has the capital, and he has the Lannister gold backing him.
But we know the truth.
Right, the readers know he is a product of incest between Cersei and Jaime Lannister. He has 0 biological claim to the throne.
But he has the chair.
He has the chair.
Then way up in the north, we have Robb Stark.
The young wolf. He's the king in the north. Crucially, though, he isn't fighting for the Iron Throne.
He doesn't want it.
Not at all. He just wants to take his ball and go home. But he's taking the northern half of the continent and the Riverlands with him.
He is fighting for independence, not dominion.
Exactly. Then we have the Baratheon brothers, and this is where it gets incredibly messy. You have Stannis and Renly.
This is really the central tragedy of the book's first act. Stannis is the older brother.
By all the laws of gods and men, if Joffrey is a bastard, the throne belongs to Stannis.
There is no debate legally.
None. But Stannis has the personality of a lobster.
He is prickly. That's a polite way to put it.
He is rigid. He is fundamentally unloved. And then you have Renly, the younger brother.
Who basically looks at the line of succession and says, who cares?
Right. He has the charisma, the friends, and the massive army. He's betting that popularity trumps legality.
And finally, the wild card. Balon Greyjoy in the Iron Islands.
Who sees the house is on fire and decides to rob the pantry.
He crowns himself and starts raiding the north while Robb is away.
So 5 kings.
5 kings. But this deep dive, The Mirror, A clash of kings isn't just about armies smashing into each other, it's a clash of
A
philosophies.
clash of ideologies.
And that brings us to our first major segment, the nature of power. Because there is a moment in this text, a specific riddle that I think is the skeleton key for the whole series.
You're talking about Varys and Tyrion.
I am. This scene just lives rent-free in my head. Tyrion Lannister is the acting hand of the king, trying to keep the city from imploding. Varys, the master of whisperers, poses him a riddle.
It's a classic. Varys sets the scene perfectly. 3 great men sit in a room. A king, a priest, and a rich man.
And between them stands a common sellsword.
Just a guy with a sword, of no particular birth or importance.
And each of these great men orders the sellsword to kill the other 2. The king says, "Do it because I am your lawful ruler."
The priest says, "Do it in the name of the gods."
And the rich man says, "Do it, and all this gold is yours."
The question Varys asks is simple. Who lives and who dies?
Now, stop for a second. If you're listening to this, try to answer that. Who actually has the power there? It seems like a trick question.
It feels like a trick, but let's play it out. If you follow the laws of Westeros, it's the king. The sellsword is a subject he must obey. That is the social contract.
Right, but if the sellsword is a deeply pious man, he fears hell more than he fears the king. So the priest wins.
Unless he's just hungry. You can't eat laws and you can't eat prayers. You can buy food with gold, so the rich man wins.
So is it a stalemate? Or does the sellsword just kill all 3 and take the gold and the crown for himself?
Varys' answer is the absolute thesis of the book. He says, power resides where men believe it resides. It's a trick. A shadow on the wall.
A shadow on the wall, and a very small man can cast a very large shadow.
Exactly. Power isn't a physical object. It's a collective delusion.
Joffrey is only king because the gold cloaks, the guys with the swords, agree to pretend he is.
If they start believing Joffrey's just a blonde kid with a bad attitude.
This is terrifying when you apply it to our 5 kings because they are all essentially projecting shadows, trying to convince the realm their shadow is the darkest.
Right. Stannis is projecting the shadow of the law and the true god. Renly is projecting the shadow of the beloved monarch. Joffrey is projecting the legacy of the dynasty.
But none of it is real. It's all performance.
Speaking of performance and the nature of these men, I want to bring up another analogy from the text that I think is even more descriptive than the riddle. It comes from Donald Noy.
Oh, I love Donald Noy, the armorer at the wall.
He's this one-armed smith who actually forged Robert Baratheon's warhammer back in the day. He's seen these 3 Baratheon brothers up close.
He's talking to Jon Snow, and he uses metallurgy to describe the 3 brothers. It is scarily accurate. He starts with Robert.
He says Robert was true steel.
Which sounds like a compliment.
It is, mostly. Steel's tough. It's made for the edge. It's made for heating things. But Noy says Robert rusted once he became king.
He wasn't made for sitting on a chair. He was made for the battlefield.
Then he moves to Stannis. And this is the quote that defines Stannis for the rest of the series. He calls Stannis iron.
Hard and brittle.
Iron is strong, yes. You can beat someone to death with a chunk of iron. But it doesn't have any give. If you put stress on iron, it doesn't bend, it snaps.
And that is Stannis' fatal flaw. He cannot compromise. To him, the law is the law. There is no gray area. If you steal bread, you lose fingers, even if you're a hero.
Which makes him a terrible politician.
Right,
Politics
Danny?
is the art of bending. Stannis is incapable of it.
And finally, Renly. Noy calls Renly copper.
Ouch. That is such a burn.
It really is. Copper is shiny, it's beautiful, it gleams in the sun. It looks like gold if you squint. But it's soft. You can't make a sword out of copper.
It suggests that Renly is all aesthetics. He plays the part of a king perfectly. He throws the best parties, he wears the best velvet. The small folk love him because he's handsome and laughs a lot.
But is there any steel underneath? If you hit him, does he hold an edge?
Noy thinks not.
So we have iron versus copper, and that is the primary conflict of the first act of this book. Stannis versus Renly. The immovable object versus the pretty facade.
And that brings us to Dragonstone. Because if we are talking about Stannis the Iron King, we have to talk about where he is mentally.
The atmosphere of Dragonstone is just oppressive. George R.R. Martin does such a good job of setting the mood here. It's all gargoyles and salt spray.
It's a horror movie set. Dragonstone is an island fortress, an ancient Targaryen stronghold. It's full of statues of hellhounds and wyverns. And Stannis is sitting there literally grinding his teeth.
It's his defining rhetoric.
He's furious. And I think we have to empathize with him for a second to understand his arc. He is the rightful heir.
He did everything right during the previous war.
He held Storm's End against a massive siege, eating rats and boots to survive. And what was his reward? Robert gave the family castle, Storm's End, to Renly, the kid who did nothing.
And he gave Stannis this gloomy rock in the middle of the ocean.
So Stannis has a massive chip on his shoulder.
It's a boulder on his shoulder. He feels unloved. And he's right. Nobody loves him. He is a hard man who inspires duty, but not affection.
And into this vacuum of affection steps one of the most mysterious characters in the canon, Lady Melisandre, the Red Woman.
We see her introduction through the eyes of Maester Cresson in the prologue, and this is so important. We don't see her as a hero, we see her as a monster.
Cresson is this frail old man. He practically raised Stannis. He loves him like a son, and he sees Melisandre whispering in Stannis' ear, telling him he's a messianic figure.
She's preaching the faith of R'hllor, the Lord of Light. The night is dark and full of terrors. She tells Stannis he is Azor Ahai reborn.
She's feeding his ego, but she's also alienating him from everyone else in Westeros who follows the Seven.
So Cresson decides to be a hero. He decides to take her out.
It's a tragic assassination attempt. He puts the Strangler, a crystallized poison, into a cup of wine. He offers to share the cup with her.
He's willing to commit suicide just to take her down.
And this is the exact moment the genre shifts. Because up until now, magic has been subtle. Maybe the direwolves are just smart dogs. Maybe the dreams are just dreams.
Right, but here, Melisandre looks at him. She knows. And she drinks anyway.
She drains the cup. The ruby at her throat glows red, and she is completely fine.
But Cresson drinks the dregs.
And he dies instantly. It's undeniable. In a world where magic has been dead for centuries, Melisandre is the real deal.
And Stannis sees this. That's the key. He isn't actually a religious fanatic, is he?
No, that's a common misconception. Stannis is an atheist, effectively. He says he stopped believing in gods the day he saw his parents' ship, the Windproud, break up across the bay.
He doesn't love the Lord of Light.
He views the Red God as a weapon. Melisandre has power. He needs power. It's a transaction.
But the cost of that transaction is incredibly high. He burns the statues of the seven gods, the faith of his ancestors, on the beach of Dragonstone.
It's political suicide. It's like a political candidate burning the flag and a holy book on live television. It ensures that the religious institutions will never support him.
But he doesn't care. He's betting it all on the Red Woman.
Which leads to the inevitable confrontation with his brother, Renly. The Iron King meets the Copper King.
The parley at Storm's End. This scene is electric. You have Renly surrounded by his knights in their summer silks, laughing, eating.
And Stannis, gaunt and angry.
And Renly offers him a peach.
A peach. It sounds so silly. Have a peach, brother.
It sounds silly, but it is one of the most profound symbols in the book. Renly says a man should never refuse to taste a peach. He tells Stannis that life is short and he should enjoy it.
But Stannis sees it as a direct insult.
Because Stannis doesn't understand pleasure.
To Stannis, the peach represents everything he hates about Renly. The softness, the indulgence, the lack of discipline. Stannis is a man of pure duty. He eats to survive, he marries to breed. He rules because it is his right. He doesn't taste anything.
And Renly is right, in a way. He's saying, what is the point of being king if you're miserable?
Exactly. Renly is life. Stannis is duty. But Stannis leaves that meeting knowing he can't win a conventional battle. Renly has 100,000 men. Stannis has maybe 5,000. It's just math.
Iron breaks. Stannis is in a position where he must bend or break. He cannot win fairly, so he cheats.
He turns to Melisandre. And we discuss the mirror concept. This is the darkest reflection. Stannis, the man of rigid justice, commits the ultimate crime. Kinslaying.
We really have to describe how this happens because it is straight up horror. Catelyn Stark is in Renly's tent.
It's night. The wind is howling outside. And suddenly a shadow enters the tent. But it's not a normal shadow. The light is wrong.
And the shadow looks like Stannis.
It's a shadow with the silhouette of a king. It draws a spectral sword and slashes Renly's throat.
The armor, that beautiful green copper armor, does absolutely nothing. The gorget is sliced through like paper.
And Renly dies in Catelyn's arms. Just like that. The biggest army in the war falls apart because one shadow killed the leader.
It is horrifying. Later, we learn the mechanics of this from Davos. He has to smuggle Melisandre under Storm's End to kill another rival, Courtnay Penrose.
And he sees her birth it.
She is pregnant with a shadow.
She births a shadow assassin. And Stannis, well, physically he ages. The text strongly implies that he is fueling this magic with his own life force.
He is literally burning himself up to secure his crown.
It proves Donald Noye was right. The iron didn't bend, but to keep from breaking, it became something completely unnatural.
Stannis essentially sells his soul for a victory. He kills his brother, he wins a large chunk of the army, but the shadow he casts is going to hang over him forever.
He compromises his iron morality for results. He's winning the war, but he is losing himself.
While Stannis is dabbling in black magic down in King's Landing, Tyrion Lannister is dealing with a very different kind of monster. His nephew, Joffrey, and the Viper's Nest of the court.
Tyrion's arc in A Clash of Kings is arguably the best political thriller material George R.R. Martin has ever written.
Right.
He arrives as acting hand of the king, and he realizes the city is rotting from the inside.
He immediately starts cleaning house. I love the way he handles Janos Slynt. Slynt was the commander of the Gold Cloaks who betrayed Ned Stark.
Tyrion invites him to dinner. It's such a civilized scene. He pours him wine, asks about his family, and then bam, he lists Slynt's corruptions and ships him off to the Night's Watch.
I'm not going to kill you, I'm just going to freeze you.
It's ruthless, but it's necessary. He's removing Cersei's pawns and replacing them with his own.
But the real masterpiece is the trap he sets for Grand Maester Pycelle.
This is classic counterintelligence. He suspects someone on the small council is spying for Cersei. So he writes 3 letters with 3 different secrets.
To Pycelle, he says he plans to marry Princess Myrcella to the Martells in Dorne.
To Varys, he says he plans to foster her with the Starks.
And to Littlefinger, he says he plans to marry her to the Arryns in the Vale.
And then he waits. When Cersei confronts him and screams about sending Myrcella to Dorne, he knows immediately. Pycelle is the leak.
And the punishment is brutal. He shaves Pycelle's beard off.
It sounds funny, but for a maester, that beard is their dignity. It strips him of his power entirely.
But here's the thing about Tyrion's governance. He is brilliant at the Game of Thrones, but he is struggling with the mirror of leadership. He is hated.
Why is he hated? He's trying to save the city.
Because of Joffrey. Joffrey represents the king in the riddle, and he is a total disaster. There's the scene with the bread riots.
Oh, this is hard to read. The royal party is riding back to the castle. The people are starving because the Tyrells have cut off the food supply. Someone throws a handful of dung at Joffrey.
And Joffrey, being Joffrey, doesn't ignore it. He orders his guards to kill the crowd. Kill them all, he screams.
It triggers a massive riot. The High Septon gets torn apart. Sansa nearly gets raped and killed, only to be saved by the Hound.
It shows that Joffrey has absolute power, but zero wisdom. He creates the chaos.
And Tyrion is the one who has to slap Joffrey. Literally slap the king across the face to get him to focus.
Tyrion is trying to save a city that hates him from a king who despises him.
And he knows Stannis is coming. The shadow of the Iron King is looming over the city.
So Tyrion turns to the alchemists, and this is where we get to the wildfire.
For substance.
The alchemists show him these jars of green liquid. It burns on water. It burns until it's gone. It is volatile and dangerous. They have thousands of jars.
And Tyrion, who is usually the rational one,
Yeah.
looks at this weapon of mass destruction and says, I'll take it all.
He creates a plan that hinges on total destruction. He also commissions a massive chain to be forged, a boom chain.
That chain, it's such a small detail early on. He orders the smiths to stop making horseshoes and start making massive links.
It shows Tyrion's lateral thinking. He knows he can't win a fair fight against Stannis' navy. Stannis has better ships and way more men.
So Tyrion decides not to fight fair. He decides to turn the Blackwater Rush into a deadly trap.
Let's pivot north again. While Tyrion is preparing for a siege, Robb Stark the Young Wolf is out there winning every battle he fights.
He is. He's in the Westerlands, smashing Lannister armies at Oxcross. He's using his dire wolf Grey Wind in battle, which absolutely terrifies the horses. He is undefeated in combat.
But the text makes a crucial point. He's winning the battles, but he is losing the politics.
Precisely. His mother, Catelyn, tries to broker peace between Renly and Stannis and fails. And Robb sends Theon Greyjoy home to the Iron Islands to get a fleet.
He thinks Theon is my best friend, he's like a brother, and his dad hates the Lannisters. This is a slam dunk.
Oh, Theon, this is one of the most tragic arcs in the entire book.
It really is. Theon goes home expecting a hero's welcome. He imagines the feast, the praise. Look at me, I'm bringing you an alliance with the king in the north.
But his father, Balon Greyjoy, looks at him and sees a Stark, not a Greyjoy. He sees the gold chain around his neck and calls it a woman's ornament. He sees a soft boy in velvet and silk.
Balon basically spits on the offer. He says, why should I be given a crown by a Stark? I'll take it with iron.
He plans to invade the north while Robb's armies are south. And Theon has a choice. This is his defining moment.
He can stay loyal to Robb, the man who treated him like a brother, Or he can try to prove to his biological father that he is a true Ironborn.
He chooses the latter. But he doesn't just raid some fishing villages. He goes for the big prize. He captures Winterfell.
It's a bold military move, but a disastrous political one. He takes the castle with a handful of men.
But he has no way to hold it. The Northmen hate him. He has Bran and Rickon as hostages, but he doesn't know what to do with them.
And then they escape.
And here's where Theon breaks. He cannot admit he lost them. If he admits he lost the Stark boys, his men will laugh at him, and his father will despise him.
So he finds a miller who has 2 young sons of similar age.
This is the point of no return for him.
He kills them, he flays their faces so they can't be identified, and he mounts their heads on the walls of Winterfell, claiming they are Bran and Rickon.
It is monstrous.
It is, and the text shows us Theon's internal monologue. He is haunted by it. He has terrible nightmares.
He calls himself the Prince of Winterfell, but he feels like a ghost. He sleeps in Ned Stark's bed, but he's terrified of the dark.
He committed an atrocity to save face, to maintain the mirror of being a strong Ironborn conqueror, but inside he is crumbling.
And the betrayal just spirals. Theon gets betrayed by his own men, and then by the bastard of Bolton.
Ramsay, we have to clarify this because it's confusing in the text. Ramsay is disguised as Reek for much of this.
Right, he gains Theon's trust. He whispers in his ear, I can get help. I can get men.
But when he comes back, he doesn't bring help. He brings slaughter.
The sack of Winterfell is the tragic climax of the Northern storyline. The Northmen, under Sir Roderick Castle, come to liberate the castle. Ramsay rides out, pretends to join them, and then butchers them.
Then he turns on Theon. Winterfell is burned, not by the Ironborn, but by Northern treachery turning on each other.
It's the mirror again. The Stark's own bannermen, the Boltons, are the ones who twist the knife.
And Theon is taken prisoner. He thought he was a player in the game, but he was just a pawn being moved by sociopaths.
It leaves the North in ruins.
Now, while all these kings are fighting over castles, there is something much bigger happening on the edges of the map. Magic is returning, and it's getting stronger.
We saw it with the Shadow Baby, but we see it even more clearly with Daenerys in the east.
She's in Korth. And let's talk about the vibe of Korth. It's described as the greatest city that ever was or will be. It's lush, it's rich, it's full of peacocks and marble.
But it's also rotten. It's a garden of poisonous flowers. Everyone wants her dragons. She is desperate. Her people are starving. She needs ships to get back to Westeros.
So she goes to the House of the Undying, the Warlocks. This sequence is a trip.
It's a psychedelic nightmare. She drinks Shade of the Evening, this blue wine that tastes like ink and rotting meat, and she enters the tower. The geometry is wrong. Doors lead to nowhere.
But the visions she sees this is a treasure trove for prophecy hunters in the text.
The source material describes vivid, disturbing images. She sees a king with a wolf's head, presiding over a feast of corpses. That is a gruesome foreshadowing of what happens to Robb Stark later.
She sees a blue flower growing from a wall of ice.
A clear nod to Jon Snow at the wall.
And she sees a man saying, he is the prince that was promised, and his is the song of ice and fire.
This is the first time we hear the title of the series in the text, The Song of Ice and Fire. It confirms that this entire story is about a balance between these two forces.
And then the Undying try to consume her.
They do. They're vampires, essentially. They want her life force. But she has dragons. Drogon breathes fire.
And this is crucial. The fire destroys the House of the Undying. It proves that the dragons are the ultimate trump card.
The Warlocks later tell her that their magic has grown strong again because of her dragons. The dragons are the battery that is recharging magic in the world.
Meanwhile, Jon Snow is way up north, and he's seeing magic too, but the scary kind.
The Great Ranging. The Night's Watch goes out in force to find Mance Rayder. But what they find is Craster's Keep.
Craster is a wildling who lives in a keep. He marries his own daughters. It's disgusting. But it's worse than that. He has no sons.
Jon realizes why. Craster gives his sons to the cold gods, to the others, the White Walkers. Gilly pleads for help.
This is the horror at the heart of the North. Craster is buying his safety with blood. He is feeding babies to ice demons.
And the Night's Watch knows. The old bear, Mormont, he knows. He tolerates it because Craster gives them shelter.
It's a moral compromise. The mirror again. To protect the realm, the Watch has to sleep under the roof of a monster.
Jon joins a scouting party with Qhorin Halfhand. They go deep into the mountains, the Skirling Pass.
And here, Jon has to make a choice. They capture a wildling girl, Ygritte. Qhorin tells him to kill her. It's an order.
But Jon can't do it. He has the sword raised, but he looks at her, and he can't be an executioner. He lets her go.
That decision to spare her changes his entire arc. While the kings play their Game of Thrones south of the Wall, the true existential threat and the wildling invasion are gathering strength unnoticed.
Which brings us to the climax, the Battle of the Blackwater, fire and chain.
This is it, the big show. Stannis' massive fleet arrives at King's Landing. Tyrion has done everything he can, the wildfire, the chain, the sorties, but he is outnumbered 5-1 on the water.
We experience the start of the naval battle from Davos's perspective. He's on his ship, the Black Betha. The layout of the fleet is vast, but there is an ominous absence of the enemy fleet.
He looks at the river and he sees the trap before it springs. He sees the towers at the mouth of the river and he realizes there is no chain visible. He thinks, where is the chain?
And then the wildfire is unleashed.
The descriptions here are incredible. It's not just fire, it's a green hell.
The pyromancers launch it from catapults. It explodes on contact. It burns green and hot. It doesn't go out with water.
The river turns into a sheet of green flame. Men are burning alive. Ships are exploding.
And then Tyrion springs the chain.
This is the moment. The signal is given. The massive winch towers pull the chain up from the riverbed.
It's devastating. Stannis' ships try to retreat from the fire, but they run into this solid iron barrier. The current pushes them back into the flames. They are crushed between the fire and the chain. It is a slaughter.
Inside the city, it's just as tense. The city is under siege. Stannis' troops are landing.
Cersei is in Maegor's holdfast with Sansa and the other noble ladies. She's getting drunk at dinner.
Yeah.
And she is terrifying here.
She discusses the burden of being a woman in power. She says tears are a woman's only weapon.
But she prefers executioners. She has Ilyn Payne standing right there. She tells Sansa that if the castle falls, Payne is there to kill them. She won't let them be taken alive.
It reveals her worldview perfectly. She's bitter and dangerous, and let's not forget the Hound, Sandor Clegane.
He is out there fighting, but he breaks due to his fear of fire.
He sees the world burning green, and he just stops. He abandons the king and the city.
It is a total rejection of the Varys riddle. He realizes that no amount of gold or oaths matters when you are on fire.
It looks like the city is going to fall. Tyrion actually rides out to lead a sortie himself. He almost dies for it.
He gets slashed across the face. He loses consciousness. He thinks it's over.
And then the tide turns.
Tywin Lannister arrives with the forces of Highgarden, the Tyrells.
And there are reports of King Renly riding in the vanguard.
The ghost of Renly. It's actually Garland Tyrell in Renly's armor, but it terrifies Stannis' superstitious truth.
They break. Stannis is defeated but not dead. He retreats to Dragonstone.
The Lannisters have won.
But look at the aftermath. Tyrion wakes up injured with a massive facial wound. He is stripped of power.
And his father, Tywin, takes all the credit for the victory.
So let's summarize this deep dive. We started with a comet and 5 kings. Where are we now at the end of the book?
Renly is dead. Stannis is broken. Ribe is betrayed. Balon is isolated.
And Joffrey sits on a throne secured by his grandfather.
Let's revisit the mirror concept. The book reflects that winning the throne often costs one's soul.
Stannis gave his honor. Theon gave his identity. Tyrion gave his blood only to be cast aside.
And while they were fighting for the chair, the real threat passed them by.
That brings us to our final provocative thought for you to mull over. The source material ends with Bran emerging from the crypts of a burned Winterfell.
The castle is broken, but the roots remain. The kings are fighting for a chair, but winter is coming for them all.
In a clash of kings, does it matter who wears the crown if the cold claims them all?
That is the real question.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the text of A Clash of Kings. Keep exploring, and watch out for comments.